那刚刚宝仪老师谈到，就是说那剧情这个 Mary Shelley 她的她的生平跟她的作品呢有很密切的关系。那么包括这些女性的角色，所以现在呢，就请宝仪老师跟我们介绍一下，就是故事中、小说中的人物。
Okay. Also, I just wanted to add something because it's related to her life a lot of the story. Another thing is, she said that lots of people asked her why she wrote such a frightening story, and she tried to explain. And that famous incident where they were in Switzerland, where Byron, Shelley, and Polidori, and Mary, the four of them, they had a sort of competition to tell horror stories.
Yes.
Yeah, and she wanted to make hers really frightening, and the reason she got this idea for Frankenstein was because she heard Shelley and Byron talking about Darwin's ideas.
Yes,
about
evolution.
Yeah, about she says it. She tells us in her introduction that there's Darwin did this experiment with a vermicelli.
Yes.
Yeah, and it came to life, right? Yeah, and so when she has this dream of her mother, I mean it's Victor, right, who has a dream of his mother.
The worms.
Yeah, worms and everything. And Mary herself said that she dreamt of people bringing people back to life because her baby had just died and she was dreaming of her baby coming back to life, and that because she really wanted it to come back to life, so she dreamt the baby said to her that it was just cold, it needed a rub to give it life. And then also because of scientific theories at the time, it's called galvanism, right?
Yes.
And basically you pass an electric current through dead tissue, and apparently it's meant to make it move. So that's where that theory of electricity and life comes from. Yeah. There are lots of characters in this story, but I think there are some that are more important, some that are just there like props. And so I'll give you a list of all the characters, and then we'll look at some of them. So there's Victor Frankenstein, there's the creature, there's Robert Walton, there's Elizabeth Lavenza, there is Henry Clerval, Justine Moritz, Alphonse Frankenstein, Caroline Frankenstein, William and Ernest Frankenstein, and Professor Kremp, Professor Waldman, De Lacy, Felix, Agatha, Safi, Daniel Nugent, Margaret Seville, and Mr. Kerwin. And I see these characters, I'm going to put them in groups of 3 or 4. And the first group will be Victor, Robert, and the creature, because they are sort of like the main characters. And I've read this analysis where they compare Victor to, Id, the Freudian analysis, and then the creature to the ego, and Robert to the superego, because Victor represents primal desires. He wants to be God, and when he's very immersed in something, he's completely devoted to realizing that desire. And the creature is more restricted by society, and the real world. And even though when he's born, he is just a blank, as he grows and as he learns, he uses society to help him gauge, what is right and wrong. And then Robert is sort of, he doesn't really do anything. He's that's why he's compared to the superego. He just he's like the conscience, and he regulates what's going on between Victor and the creature. He listens to the story, and in many ways, and because he tells the story to us, it seems like he regulates, Victor also, I think, very directly is linked to nature, because he is inspired by it, he is destroyed by it, and he is also healed by it. And very often you'll see that he needs to go into the mountains, or he needs to go, on the lake to get rid of his depression and his sorrow and his worries. And the creature is born good. He is romantic in the sense that he is full of feeling and passion, and he is born good. And then I also think that Robert represents another aspect of Romanticism because he is in quest of knowledge. You know, like Victor, he also wants knowledge, and he is in many ways self-educated. And he travels. You know, he wants to go to the North Pole. He wants to explore these new routes because he wants to broaden his knowledge, and he wants to find himself. He wants to find his self, and he's looking for friends. And then the other group I would put Justine, Elizabeth, and Caroline, and all these three characters. They all have links to Mary Shelley. For example, Caroline is very much like Mary Wollstonecraft. You know, she is caring. You know, she visits the poor, and she's very kind, and she takes up the causes of the underprivileged. That's why she goes and adopts Elizabeth, and that's why Justine, works for the family. Caroline herself, was orphaned, and then she was saved by her husband, who then married her, and her husband was also in his 40s, I think, when he married her. Alphonse was about 40 when he met Caroline again, and he married her. And that's very much like Mary Wollstonecraft, who met Shelley, who met Godwin when Godwin was 40. And Elizabeth is an orphan, like Ulas, you mentioned, and she was orphaned when she was very young, and she lived with her stepmother, but she didn't like her stepmother much. And she, in many ways, she's like Shelley too, because she then moves to live with the Frankenstein, like Shelley herself went to Dundee to live with friends. And then Justine, she's symbolic in the story also because she represents the underprivileged. She represents the female that's mistreated. She was mistreated in her family. She was mistreated by the justice system, and in the end she was hung because for a crime that she didn't actually do, which shows that the laws of the time were unfair. And then I put these four characters in another group. I put William Frankenstein, Alphonse Frankenstein, Henry Clerval, and the Lacys in the same group, because I think they represent several ideas that Shelley was trying to express, especially the idealistic side of society. So William Frankenstein was a baby, right? Very young. I can't remember how old he was when he was killed by the monster, the creature. And when he died, critics have noticed that it happens in the middle of the story, where basically it's meant to represent the death of innocence, and that Victor now has to face up to his crime. Well, not crimes, but for what he did. And so it's symbolic. And the de Lacys, they represent this sort of rustic, ideal, harmonious family. They're very generous, they're very kind. They should be what families
should be like.
Yes, except they are poverty stricken, unfortunately. Yes. And then Alphonse Frankenstein, he's an upright man. He's the perfect husband and father, which is a bit like William Godwin, right? He wanted to better society. And then Henry Clerval has been compared to Percy Bysshe Shelley because he is he studies literature, he's interested in the languages, and he's also very sensitive. So basically I would put the characters into these three groups. Of course you can put it in other ways, but I think it's...
所以宝仪老师给我们介绍的那个人物呢，这个人物彼此之间的关系，还有这些小说人物所做的事情，都可以看出来这个小说里头这个作者所想表现讨论的很多问题。也许聪明的同学们到目前已经可以发现，就是 Frankenstein 这个小说里头呢，比方涉及到这种教育的问题、知识的问题，知识是好的还是坏的，还有这种科学发展的问题，还有另外一个非常重要的就是浪漫时期对自然界的一种看法，大自然好像可以治疗一个生病人的 可以治疗人的疾病，可以帮助人变得非常的宁静，可以使人的可以去除人的这个忧郁症等等。